Look, I got a ton of respect for what Mike McDaniel has done with the Dolphins, and I think he is very real and authentic and honest and transparent. And a lot of the things that older coaches, more experienced coaches aren't, like a Bill Belichick, who would never be anywhere close to being that candid. Can you imagine Bill Belichick answering questions like that?
No.
He's in the protocol. I'm not saying. All I know is he's in the protocol. He's in the protocol. He's in the protocol. I've already addressed that. He's in the protocol. We wouldn't get that kind of openness. I have a deeper concern, though, when you're talking about a young coach, and I think we've addressed this before when Tua concussion problems arose back in September and October. There's a certain amount of deference that is inherent to the guy who walks through the door of a football operation. Ostensibly, he's in charge of it, Chris, but there are mechanisms, there are structures, there are systems in place that you don't want to turn upside down. You don't feel like it's your place. You're not a doctor. You're not a doctor. You have to defer to the team doctors. Well, what do you do when the team doctors aren't doing their job? What are you doing when the spotters aren't doing their job? What are you doing when the trainers aren't doing their job? Why is it that the head coach is the one who has to figure out during film review something doesn't seem right here? Where's everybody else whose job it is to protect the health and safety of these players? That's where I wonder if there's anything boiling inside of Mike McDaniel, that he feels like others in the organization have failed this guy, and he's the one that had to figure out something isn't right. So, again, it's not a criticism of McDaniel. It's a recognition of the fact that when you hire a young coach, he's not going to feel comfortable creating that kind of internal turmoil. But I feel like somebody needs to be pissed off about how this could be, that nobody recognized in real time something was wrong. And it's not until the next day when the coach is studying film, he's like, something's wrong here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to it. And the NFL is still in its infancy stages here of figuring their process out, obviously. Again, I'm not going to blame or expect the head coach to, be the guy that's evaluating for head concussions during the football game either, as we discussed yesterday. Now, Mike McDaniel, I think he, was stuttering a little bit there and careful with his words because he's probably trying not to get people in trouble in the organization, right? But knowing him, knowing where he came from a little bit with Miami, from San Francisco, with Kyle Shanahan and his buddy, I can guarantee you, Mike, he's mother effing some people behind the scenes. I can guarantee it. Don't be fooled by the glasses and the nerdy look and all that. We've seen a few things. I think we talked about it last week on social media. He ain't afraid to tell the coaches, hey, get that effing fixed right now, or take blame, or just say what he's got to say in the moment and be harsh. I don't think he's scared to do that. I don't think he's going to do it publicly like we just saw right there, and that's why maybe he was a little delicate about what he wanted to say. But do I doubt that? I don't doubt that Mike McDaniel's in the background a little bit going, what the F are we doing? And who the F was, why aren't we watching him? I would think he's doing that, knowing that human, and then knowing the guy he worked for is very much like that out in San Francisco. So that's what I would say there. It's just it's an unfortunate circumstance, and it's unfortunate that it's been thrown in his lap to have to evaluate or figure out some of these situations or talk about it in front of the media when it's really not his department. And, he's done a good job. And then I think the most important thing is, Mike, to what we're saying is we saw the human. You said it yesterday a little bit. He's a human first. He's a good guy. He's a dude, whatever. That's why players like him. It's why players like Shanahan. They can say F you, but you still feel like they're your buddy and they're in the foxhole with you. And then they know how to joke and, talk some crap and trash and make you feel like, hey, coach is one of the guys. He's got that. So, that's a credit to him, too, for caring about the human. And, Mike, it sounds like by watching the film, they piece together like, what the hell? This guy's never done this. What's he doing? Where's he looking here? And that's what kind of gave them the red alert that something's off with Tua.
The other side of this equation as well, the NFL Players Association exercising its prerogative to initiate a joint review of the circumstances, an NFLPA activity. We first really dug into the nuts and bolts of how that works back in late September when Tua struck his head on the turf at the same stadium, got up wobbly, ended up returning to the game. The union wanted to know how in the world he was cleared to return when everybody paying attention to what we saw said this guy should not be back today. How did he get back into the game? So the union started that. And remember, the end result was this kind of weird, clunky, the NFL is sticking to its story. The union is sticking to its story. The end result is significant changes made to the game day concussion protocol, which kind of implies the NFLPA was right and the NFL was wrong. And that's what we're going to be working with here.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. The league constantly circling the wagons here. I've said this time and again, and I mean no one any disrespect, but I think in any organization, when you have a very critical health and safety function like you now do in the NFL, and you have a very common and important to the organization PR function, when the same executive is in charge of both departments, you are asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be a very strong whiff of PR in everything that is health and safety. Not that that wouldn't be the case anyway.
Right.
But it's even more tied together. It's welded together when it's health and safety and PR, because there's so much PR that's coming through the health and safety. So hopefully the union will push and push and push to find out why. This moment here did not raise a red flag. Player who has struck his head twice on the ground this year, resulting in, we know, one concussion. The other one, well, don't say it was a concussion. Say it was a back injury. Sure, Jan.
I don't even know how
he
that's
hits his head on
possible
the ground
still.
and nobody activates any concern.
Right.
Nobody activates any concern when this guy hits his head on the ground. And they're already doing it. Alan Sills, earlier this week, talking to the NFL Network, already saying, well, he has to strike his head and have some injury behaviors that are detected thereafter. So, if he doesn't wobble at all, well, he did that back in September and it wasn't enough. So I digress. I think that it's important that the NFLPA be very vigilant and diligent and demanding to find out who was asleep at the switch from the moment his head hit the turf on Christmas Day until the moment Mike McDaniel was watching film the next day saying, something's not right here. What transpired from then to then, and why didn't somebody before McDaniel is the one who sees something's wrong sound the alarm internally that something's not right with the quarterback? Somebody surely in the organization saw the video on social media.
Yeah.
Somebody surely saw that.
I would think so.
What did they do? What did they know? When did they know it? And what did they do about it? I want the union to get to the bottom of all of that.
Yeah, I hope they do. It's one where, like Mike, when you watch the coach's film and you watch it, you can see offensive linemen just before the play clicks off to go to the next play rush over to him in a way where they're worried, like more than the normal of like, hey, the guy got sacked and let me go pick him up, right? There's 2 or 3 guys that I think on the offensive line who kind of saw how his head hit the ground, and you kind of see them take off running over to him, and then it cuts off. And here, maybe we can see it from this. If you kind of look, keep your eye on offensive linemen. See, there's one there that looks back, but we're not going to see it from this clip. It's a little different than the coach's film. But some of the guys up top on the screen there, they do run over to him almost instantly, as in like, hey, are you okay? Right? You're just going to have to take my word for it. 68 is the one guy that I know for sure that was involved in that. So, again, I think there's that. And then like McDaniel saw, and Mike, I don't want to read into it, but even as I was watching on film, like, listen, he makes some good throws in the second half, but he does do some things and has like lack of reaction to his interceptions where I was a little bit like, he doesn't usually act like that when he makes a mistake. He usually has a little bit of a, personality after. He threw the interception to Raheem Mostert, the second interception up the seam where he's not even looking, and that's the one where you go, I don't know what's wrong with him there. Like, why would he throw that? The guy's not looking. He's not expecting it. And it wasn't, most times you see quarterbacks have a reaction of, or do this, or, and like they clap their hands together. He kind of just was like, oh, okay, and walked off the sideline. And he kind of did that for all 3 interceptions. I mean, this decision alone right here would make you wonder, wait, is he thinking clearly? There's 5 guys over there. I don't even know if the perfect throw. This one here is the one where you got to go, wait, what is going on? What is he thinking? What are they doing? And, again, I don't want to read too into it. I'm not a doctor, but these are some basic plays as far as a quarterback's concerned. This read right here, it's one of the first plays I'm sure Mike McDaniel put in the offense. Not only is it, a horrible decision, but the throw matches like a body that's not functioning on a top, level there. So, I don't know. There's signs there, but I'm not a doctor, and I'm not trying to look too deep into it. But it did seem odd as you watched film in the second half.
You mentioned Mostert. I saw this quote last night via Hal Habib, the Palm Beach Post. Mostert was asked yesterday if he was shocked to hear that Tua had a concussion.
Right.
Mostert said, I was shocked. I totally didn't realize Tua went through that. But it also kind of made sense towards the end of the game. I was asking myself in the huddle, what are we doing? So, and I think part of this, and you made a comment earlier that is completely accurate. The NFL, even though it's been 13 years since it had its concussion epiphany forced upon it by Congress, how many specific examples have actually popped up that give anyone and everyone a chance to learn lessons? And I think one of the big takeaways from this, and this is why I want the NFLPA to get to the bottom of it, I don't want the NFLPA to result in, this investigation to cause people to get fired or, if you're accountable, you should be accountable. That's a different issue. But I want to know who knew what and when. So players are encouraged to say something. If Raheem Mostert's in the huddle thinking, what's going on? What are we doing here? Go to the sideline and say something to somebody about it. If you're one of the offensive linemen that rushed over to Tua after he hit his head, go to the sideline and say something to someone. Do what Nelson Aguilar did. Nelson Aguilar was applauded for basically insisting that the game stop a few Monday nights ago, Cardinals, Patriots, when Devontae Parker was clearly impaired after hitting his head.
Right.
What Aguilar did should be standard practice. We need to get to the point where guys are willing to do that. And I understand that some guys, hey, I don't want you making a big deal. I don't want to be the one who's got to come out of the game. At a certain point, the culture needs to overcome that. And this maybe this is the tipping point for it. Maybe there's a way to push this in the direction where people who have that little flicker of something act on it. And instead of just kind of going about their business.
Yeah.
And not that I'm saying it's wrong to go about your business. We got to push back against decades of guys just going about their business.
Right.
That's my point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think we're getting there. We are. And I think the players, again, they are more aware. It's hard, in a game, too. Sometimes, hey, the guy's a little off. You're not sure. Wait, did he, bang his shoulder? Maybe he's fighting through a little ankle issue. It's also, as we've discussed so many times, it's just a culture of like, hey, do your job. Worry what you got to do. And you're not a doctor, right? But I do think we're getting to a spot here where, hopefully players are going to be more comfortable about being vocal with it. It's still early, and it's still a game that's about machoism and all that, and we're kind of breaking through those barriers of, that doesn't mean you're macho, that you're continue to play and you're seeing four guys and it's really just one guy. That doesn't mean you're tougher or anything. You can still be really tough and macho, and we can be safe and smart and not ruin your life after football. And I think that's where we're headed. It's just not totally, indoctrinated into the DNA of football players, the coaches, and really the league as we're seeing quite yet.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.